Lieutenant Jack Harmon stood at the viewport of Research Station Vega 9, watching the stars. He sighed as he checked his watch. 6 months alone on this moon was almost over. Just 7 more days of collecting rock samples, and he could finally go home to Earth. Jack ran his hand through his short brown hair. At 38, he had spent more time in space than on his home planet. After 15 years as a space marine, he had traded his combat rifle for scientific equipment. He now studied rocks and soil on distant moons and planets. The quiet life suited him mostly. Station log, day 175, Jack said to the recording system. Completed survey of northern quadrant. Found high levels of rare minerals. May be worth setting up mining operations in this area. He walked to his workstation and placed a dark gray rock sample in a scanner. The machine hummed, analyzing the chemical makeup of the stone. Jack looked at the results on his screen. Promising. He muttered to himself. Earth will be happy about this. What Jack didn't know was that he wasn't alone anymore. Far away, in a dimly lit command center, eyes watched him through hidden cameras. The watchers weren't human. They were Cherulians, a species that had been fighting humans for territory in this part of space for years. Their skin was pale blue, and their eyes were large and black. They had discovered the human research station 3 weeks ago and had been planning ever since. Is the asset ready for deployment? Asked Commander Drea. Her voice was cold and sharp. A scientist bowed before her. Yes, Commander. Asset K-17 is our most advanced creation yet. It will not fail. Commander Drea looked at the screen showing the lone human going about his work. One test subject isolated. Perfect conditions to evaluate our new weapon. In a laboratory nearby, technicians prepared a creature unlike anything found in nature. Its body was covered in black scales that could change color to match surroundings. It stood 7 feet tall on powerful legs. Its head featured 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, allowing it to see in multiple directions at once. Sharp teeth filled its mouth, and its claws could cut through metal. But the most dangerous thing about Asset K-17 wasn't its physical features. It was the computer in its brain, programmed with one simple command. Find humans and kill them. Prepare the delivery pod, ordered Commander Drea. I want the asset deployed within the hour. The technicians loaded the creature into a small pod, barely large enough for its massive frame. The pod was designed to attach to the human station without triggering alarms. Once attached, it would burn through the hull and release its deadly cargo. As Jack finished cataloging his samples for the day, he thought about what waited for him back on Earth. A small apartment in New Mexico, maybe a teaching position at the university. Nothing exciting, but after years of war and isolation, boring sounded perfect. He headed to the small kitchen area to heat up his dinner. The station was designed for efficiency, not comfort. One main room contained his work equipment, a small kitchen, and a fold-out bed. Other rooms housed more specialized equipment, storage, and the bathroom. It was small, but for one person it was enough. Jack sat at his desk, eating reheated pasta while reviewing his notes from the day. Outside, the sun was setting over the moon's barren landscape. Long shadows stretched across the gray dust and rocks. In the distance, mountains rose like jagged teeth against the darkening sky. The facility's lights automatically dimmed to simulate evening on Earth, helping maintain Jack's natural sleep cycle. He yawned and decided to turn in early. Tomorrow would be another long day of surveys. Just as Jack was preparing for bed, a slight vibration ran through the station. He paused, listening. Research stations made all kinds of noises. Equipment, running, air circulation systems, temperature regulators. But this was different. This felt like something hitting the hull. Central, run external scan, Jack said to the station's AI system. External scan complete. No abnormalities detected, replied the flat computerized voice. Jack frowned. Years in combat had taught him to trust his instincts, and his instincts were screaming that something was wrong. He walked to the weapons locker and punched in his code. The small door slid open, revealing his service pistol. Technically, he wasn't supposed to have it. Research stations were scientific facilities, not military ones. But old habits die hard, and Jack had insisted on bringing protection. He checked the gun, making sure it was loaded, then slipped it into his belt at the small of his back. Probably nothing, he told himself. Just space debris hitting the station. Still, better safe than sorry. On the other side of the station, the delivery pod had finished burning through the outer hull. It was now working on the inner layer, using a specialized acid that dissolved metal without making noise. Inside the pod, Asset K-17 waited patiently, its body in a state of suspended animation to conserve oxygen. The inner hull finally gave way. The pod opened and the creature slipped into the dark maintenance tunnel. It moved silently, its feet making no sound on the metal floor. Its skin changed color, matching the shadows around it. The human would never see it coming. Jack couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. He moved through the station methodically, checking each room. Everything seemed normal. The laboratory was untouched. The storage rooms were sealed. The communication center showed no incoming signals. "You're getting paranoid in your old age," Jack muttered to himself. Still, he kept his hand near his gun. In the main control room, Jack checked the station's systems again. All green lights, no warnings, no alarms. Maybe it really was nothing. He was about to head back to bed when the lights flickered, just for a second, but enough to catch his attention. Jack immediately moved to the system control panel. "Central, run diagnostics on power systems," he ordered. Running diagnostics. Anomaly detected in Section 3. Power fluctuation of unknown origin. Section 3 was the far side of the station, containing mostly storage and life support systems. Jack grabbed a flashlight from the emergency kit and headed that way, moving quietly along the corridors. As he approached Section 3, the temperature seemed to drop. Jack could see his breath fogging in front of him. Strange, he thought. The environmental controls should keep the temperature steady throughout the station. The door to Section 3 was closed. Jack pressed his ear against it but heard nothing. He entered his override code, and the door slid open with a soft hiss. The room beyond was dark, emergency lights casting red shadows across the walls. Jack swept his flashlight around, illuminating storage containers and equipment. Nothing seemed out of place, but the feeling of wrongness increased. Then he saw it. A shadow that didn't match any of the equipment, a shadow that moved when nothing else did. Jack froze, his hand moving to his gun. The shadow shifted again, and Jack caught a glimpse of something that shouldn't exist. Something with too many eyes and claws that reflected the light of his flashlight. For a moment, neither moved. They studied each other across the room, the human and the thing sent to kill him. Jack knew with absolute certainty that he was looking at something created for one purpose: his destruction. Asset K-17 made the first move. It lunged forward with impossible speed, closing the distance between them in the blink of an eye. Jack drew his gun and fired 3 shots in rapid succession. 2 hit their mark, but the creature barely slowed. Jack barely had time to dive aside as claws slashed where he had been standing. He rolled to his feet and ran, sealing doors behind him as he retreated to the control room. Blood ran down his arm where one claw had caught him, slicing through his uniform and skin with disturbing ease. Inside the control room, Jack slammed his hand on the emergency lockdown button. Blast doors closed throughout the station, compartmentalizing the facility. It wouldn't hold the creature forever, but it might buy him some time. As he bandaged his wound, the station's main computer announced, "Emergency protocols activated. Station sealed. Distress signal sent. Estimated rescue arrival, 14 days. Jack stared at the security monitors, watching as the creature systematically began testing doors and walls. It wasn't just hunting him. It was studying the station, learning its layout. 14 days trapped with a predator designed to kill him. Jack checked his gun. 6 bullets left. Not nearly enough. The hunt had begun. Jack stared at the security monitors, watching the creature move through the station. 3 days had passed since its arrival. 3 days of cat and mouse games. 3 days of barely sleeping, always listening for the sound of claws on metal. He had learned some things about his hunter. It was smart, smarter than any animal had a right to be. It had already disabled 2 of the security cameras by throwing objects at them. It had also cut power to sections of the station, forcing Jack to venture out to make repairs. The wound on his arm throbbed. The deep cuts from their first encounter were healing slowly. Jack changed the bandage, wincing as he cleaned the injury. The cut seemed to resist closing, as if something in the creature's claws prevented normal healing. "Central, show me current station status," Jack said to the AI. A map appeared on the main screen showing the various sections of the station. Red areas indicated damaged or inaccessible zones. Nearly a third of the station was now colored red. Jack had set up a safe area in the medical bay. It had 3 different exits, plenty of supplies, and most importantly, a reinforced door. He had dragged a mattress in there, along with food and water to last several days. It wasn't comfortable, but it was the closest thing to safety he had. The monitor showing Section 5 suddenly went dark. Jack leaned forward, frowning. The creature had just been in Section 3. How had it moved so quickly? "Central, what happened to Camera 5? Jack asked. "Camera 5 is offline, cause unknown," the AI replied. Jack grabbed his gun and checked it again, still 6 bullets. He hadn't fired since that first encounter, saving his limited ammunition for when he truly needed it. Instead, he had been using other weapons, a fire extinguisher that briefly confused the creature's senses, a maintenance robot programmed to move around as a distraction, and his knowledge of the station's systems. He glanced at the clock. 13 hours until the creature's rest period. Jack had noticed that every 24 hours, the predator retreated to the darkest part of the station's maintenance tunnels and remained still for about 4 hours. During these periods, Jack could move more freely, make repairs, and gather supplies. But right now, the creature was active and hunting, and it was getting closer to the medical bay. Jack checked the makeshift weapons he had created, a spear made from a broken pipe, a stun baton with its power turned to maximum, a pressurized canister of cleaning fluid that could temporarily blind the creature. None of them would kill it, but they might slow it down. The lights flickered again. Jack held his breath, listening. Then he heard it, a soft scraping sound from the air vent above. He moved silently to the side of the room, picking up the stun baton. The vent cover fell to the floor with a clang. 2 of the creature's eyes peered into the room, scanning. Jack remained perfectly still, pressed against the wall where the creature couldn't see him. Its head emerged further, those 4 black eyes moving independently, searching for its prey. Jack waited until the creature had pushed halfway through the vent, then made his move. He jammed the stun baton against its exposed neck and pressed the button. Blue electricity crackled and the creature made a sound, a high-pitched wail that hurt Jack's ears. It thrashed violently, claws scraping against metal as it tried to retreat back into the vent. Jack held the baton firmly in place, gritting his teeth as electricity coursed through the creature's body. After several seconds, the predator went limp and fell from the vent, crashing onto a table of medical supplies. Jack didn't waste time celebrating. He knew the stun wouldn't last long. He grabbed his spear and plunged it into the creature's shoulder, pinning it to the table. Black blood oozed from the wound. The creature's eyes snapped open. All 4 focused on Jack with terrifying intelligence. It grabbed the spear shaft with one clawed hand and snapped it like a twig. Jack backed away, raising his gun. The creature pulled the broken spear from its shoulder and stood. It was even more impressive up close, nearly 7 feet of muscle and scales, with a face that combined the worst features of reptile and insect. Its mouth opened, revealing rows of needle-sharp teeth. Jack fired twice. Both bullets hit the creature, in the chest. It staggered back but didn't fall. Instead, it looked down at its wounds with what almost seemed like curiosity. The black blood stopped flowing, and before Jack's eyes, the bullet holes began to close. "You've got to be kidding me," Jack muttered. The creature leaped forward. Jack dodged, but he was slowed by days of little sleep and poor nutrition. A claw caught his leg, ripping through his pants and into flesh. He cried out in pain but kept moving, limping toward the door. He made it through and slammed the button to close it, but the creature was too fast. It wedged itself in the doorway, pushing against the closing mechanism. Metal groaned as the door tried to shut against the immovable predator. Jack grabbed the pressurized canister and sprayed directly into the creature's 4 eyes. It recoiled, screeching in pain, and Jack seized the opportunity to kick it back through the doorway. The door slid shut and locked with a reassuring click. Breathing heavily, Jack slid to the floor, examining his newest wound. The cut on his leg was deep but had missed major blood vessels. He would live, assuming he could stop the bleeding and prevent infection. He dragged himself to a cabinet and pulled out bandages and antiseptic. As he dressed his wound, Jack's mind raced. The creature could heal from bullet wounds. It was strong enough to break metal. It was smart enough to use the air vents. And it never stopped hunting. This wasn't a normal animal. This was something created, engineered to be the perfect predator. The realization sent a chill down Jack's spine. Someone had made this thing specifically to hunt humans. But who? And why? He pulled himself to the computer terminal and began searching through the station's database for any information on advanced bioengineering. Most of it was standard research material, but one file caught his attention. A military intelligence briefing on rumored Zerulean weapons programs. Jack opened the file and began to read. According to Earth intelligence, the Zeruleans had been working on biological weapons for years, attempting to create the perfect hunter. Most of these programs were considered theoretical, with no confirmed successes. Well, I can confirm one success now, Jack said grimly. Outside the medical bay, the creature paced back and forth. It examined the door, testing different points for weakness. Its shoulder wound had completely healed, and its eyes had recovered from the chemical spray. It was learning, adapting to Jack's defenses. Jack watched it on the security monitor. The creature suddenly looked directly at the camera, as if it knew Jack was watching. It raised one clawed hand and deliberately dragged its talons across the door, leaving deep scratches in the metal. It was sending a message. No door would protect him forever. Jack checked his supplies. Food and water for maybe 2 more days. Medical supplies for his injuries, and his gun with 4 bullets remaining. Rescue was still 11 days away. He opened a drawer and pulled out a small device, a sample analyzer used to test the chemical composition of rocks. With a few modifications, it might be useful for another purpose. Jack began taking it apart, his hands working quickly despite his exhaustion. If this creature was engineered, it had to have weaknesses built into its design. Every weapon had a flaw. He just needed to find it before his luck ran out. As night fell on the station, Jack worked by the dim light of emergency lamps. Outside, the creature continued its patient stalking, waiting for the human to make a mistake. But what it didn't realize was that Jack had stopped thinking like prey. He was thinking like a hunter. Jack woke with a start. He had fallen asleep at his workbench, the modified sample analyzer still in pieces before him. He checked the time. He had been asleep for 2 hours. Dangerous, but his body had needed rest. He quickly checked the security monitors. The creature was in Section 4, moving slowly through the storage area. Jack had noticed it spent more time there recently, almost as if it was looking for something specific. That worried him. 5 days had passed since the creature arrived. 5 days of near-constant danger. Jack's wounds were not healing properly. The cuts on his arm and leg remained open, seeping a clear fluid along with blood. Whatever was in the creature's claws seemed designed to keep wounds from closing. Jack finished his work on the sample analyzer. He had turned it into a crude scanner that might help him learn more about the creature's biology. If he could understand how it was made, he might find a weakness. The biggest problem was getting close enough to use it. The scanner had a short range, requiring Jack to be within a few feet of the predator, much closer than he wanted to be. Jack checked his calendar. The 10th day of each month was when the creature entered its longer rest phase. Over the last few days, Jack had observed that the predator rested for about 4 hours each day. But according to his notes, every 10th day, it rested for nearly 8 hours. Today was the 10th. This might be my only chance, Jack said to himself. He gathered his supplies, the scanner, his gun, a sedative from the medical bay, and a makeshift shield made from a storage container lid. He also took a small camera to record whatever he found. Earth would want evidence of this thing. Jack waited, watching the monitors. As the station's day cycle ended, the creature made its way to the maintenance tunnels below Section 6. It curled, up in a dark corner, just as it had done before. Its 4 eyes closed one by one and its breathing slowed. Jack gave it an hour to ensure it was truly resting. Then he moved quietly through the station, avoiding areas where the floor might creak or doors might make noise. He descended into the maintenance tunnels, the dim emergency lighting casting long shadows. The air was colder here and damp from a leak in one of the water pipes. Jack's breath fogged in front of him as he moved deeper into the tunnels. The scanner in one hand, his gun in the other. He found the creature exactly where the monitors had shown. It was curled in a ball, its scales now a deep blue-black that helped it blend with the shadows. Up close, Jack could see details the cameras had missed, patterns on its scales that shifted slightly, even in sleep, and small vents along its neck that opened and closed with each breath. Jack activated the scanner and slowly moved it over the creature's body, careful not to make contact. The device hummed softly as it collected data. Jack winced at the noise, but the predator didn't stir. The scanner showed strange readings. The creature's body temperature was much higher than a reptile should be. Its cellular structure contained both organic and synthetic components. Most interesting was its brain activity. Even in sleep, parts of its brain remained highly active. Jack took several small samples, a scale that had come loose, a drop of the black blood from a small cut on its leg, and a swab from one of the breathing vents. Each sample went into a separate container for later analysis. He was about to leave when the creature twitched. One eye opened, focusing directly on Jack. For a moment, neither moved. Then Jack did something unexpected. He held up his hands, palms out, in a universal gesture of peace. The creature stared at him, its eye unblinking. It didn't attack. It simply watched. Jack slowly backed away, maintaining eye contact. The creature's eye followed him, but it remained still. When Jack reached the tunnel entrance, he quickly climbed up and sealed the hatch behind him. Back in the lab, Jack's hands shook as he placed the samples in analysis equipment. The encounter had left him shaken. The creature could have attacked, but it didn't. Why? The analysis results were shocking. The black blood contained nanomachines, microscopic robots designed to repair damage and prevent blood clotting. The scale was a marvel of engineering, with synthetic fibers woven through natural tissue to create armor stronger than steel. And the swab from the breathing vent contained a complex chemical compound Jack had never seen before. "This isn't just some animal," Jack muttered. "It's a weapon, a perfect killing machine." He looked closer at the brain scans the scanner had recorded. They showed something unusual, an implant at the base of the creature's brain. Jack wasn't a neuroscientist, but he recognized a control device when he saw one. The realization hit him like a punch to the gut. The creature wasn't just hunting him by instinct. It was being directed, controlled by whoever had made it. Jack turned to the communication system. Standard messages couldn't get through the station's lockdown, but he might be able to tap into the emergency channel. He needed to warn Earth about what he'd found. As he worked on the communications array, the station's lights suddenly went out. All of them, even the emergency lighting. Jack froze in the darkness. The creature had never cut all power before. A soft red glow illuminated the room as backup systems came online. The main computer announced, "Critical systems failure. All non-essential functions disabled. Life support operating on reserve power." On the security monitor, Jack saw the creature moving through the station with purpose. It wasn't hunting anymore. It was heading straight for the station's main power core. Jack grabbed his gun and ran. If the creature destroyed the power core, the entire station would lose life support. No air, no heat, no water recycling. Jack would be dead within hours. He reached the power core room just as the creature was forcing its way through the door. Without hesitation, Jack fired his last 2 bullets. One missed, but the other hit the creature in the back. It turned, facing Jack with all 4 eyes. For the first time, Jack saw something new in those eyes. Not just hunger or instinct, but intelligence. Maybe even recognition. "You know what you're doing," Jack said quietly. "You're not just an animal." The creature tilted its head as if considering Jack's words. Then it turned back to the power core and raised its clawed hand to strike. Jack lunged forward and jammed the sedative needle into the creature's neck, directly over where he had seen the brain implant. The creature roared and spun around, knocking Jack across the room. He slammed into the wall, the air driven from his lungs. The predator advanced on him, moving slower now as the sedative began to take effect. It reached for Jack, its claws inches from his face. Then it stopped. Its 4 eyes blinked rapidly and it made a strange sound, almost like confusion. Jack watched in amazement as the creature backed away from him. It shook its head violently, as if fighting against something inside. The implant at the base of its skull glowed faintly through its scales. The sedative had affected the implant somehow, interrupting the control signal. The creature wasn't acting on its own programming anymore. It was free. The creature looked at Jack again, but the hunger was gone from its eyes. Instead, there was something Jack never expected to see: uncertainty. It looked down at its claws, then back at Jack's wounded leg. It seemed to be putting together what had happened. Jack slowly stood up, wincing at the pain in his back. "Can you understand me?" he asked. The creature didn't respond, but it didn't attack either. It turned and walked to the door, then looked back at Jack. It was waiting for him. Jack realized he had a choice. He could try to kill the creature while it was confused, or he could take a chance on what was happening. The soldier in him said to eliminate the threat. But the scientist in him was curious. He took a step forward. The creature stepped back, giving him space. Together, they left the power core room. An uneasy truce formed between predator and prey. Jack sat at his workbench, keeping one eye on the creature across the room. It had been 2 days since the encounter at the power core, 2 days of careful observation and small steps toward understanding. The creature sat perfectly still, watching Jack work. It hadn't tried to attack him again. Instead, it followed him through the station, maintaining distance but never letting Jack out of its sight. Jack had named it Hunter in his mind. He needed something to call it, and that seemed fitting. Hunter was still dangerous. Jack had no illusions about that, but something had changed when the sedative disrupted the implant in its brain. "I think I've figured it out," Jack said aloud, looking at the data on his screen. He had been analyzing the samples he'd collected, as well as running tests on the brain scans. "You're not just a predator, you're a weapon. Someone made you to hunt humans." Hunter tilted its head, those 4 black eyes blinking in sequence. Jack had no idea if it could understand his words, but it seemed to respond to his voice. Jack pointed to his own head, then to Hunter. "They put something in your brain, made you attack me. But it's not working right now." The creature raised one clawed hand to the back of its neck, touching the area where the implant was located. It made a low rumbling sound that Jack hadn't heard before. Jack turned back to his work. The brain scans showed that the implant was still active but operating differently. The sedative had damaged some of its functions. Jack guessed that the control signals were interrupted, allowing Hunter to act on its own instincts rather than programmed commands. The question was, how long would this last? Would the implant repair itself? Would Hunter go back to trying to kill him? Jack needed to understand more. He stood up slowly and picked up the scanner. "I need to check something," he said, speaking calmly. "I'm not going to hurt you." He approached Hunter carefully. The creature watched him but didn't move away. Jack activated the scanner and passed it over Hunter's head, focusing on the implant. The readings showed the device was indeed damaged, but parts of it were already beginning to repair themselves. Hunter suddenly stood up, rising to its full height. Jack stepped back quickly, reaching for his knife, his only remaining weapon, but Hunter wasn't attacking. It walked to the computer and placed one clawed finger on the screen, pointing to the image of the implant. Jack stared in shock. "You understand what that is?" Hunter made a series of clicking sounds and tapped the screen again, this time harder. "You want it out," Jack realized. "You want me to remove the implant." Hunter stepped back and lowered its head, exposing the back of its neck. The message couldn't be clearer. Jack ran a hand through his hair, considering the implications. If he removed the implant, Hunter might be truly free of whoever controlled it. But the surgery would be dangerous. One wrong move could kill the creature, or make it go berserk. "I'm not a surgeon," Jack said. "But I'll try." He spent the next few hours studying the medical equipment and preparing the lab. Hunter remained still, occasionally making those clicking sounds that Jack now recognized as communication attempts. When everything was ready, Jack administered another dose of sedative, smaller this time, just enough to keep Hunter calm during the procedure. The creature lay on the examination table, its breathing slow and steady. Jack worked carefully, using the scanner to guide his movements. The implant was buried deep, connected to Hunter's brainstem by dozens of tiny filaments. One by one, Jack disconnected them, sweat beading on his forehead as he concentrated. After nearly 3 hours of delicate work, he carefully extracted the implant, a small metal device no bigger than his thumbnail. It pulsed with a faint blue light. "Got it," Jack said with relief. He placed the implant in a container and sealed it. He would study it later, but first he needed to close the wound in Hunter's neck. As Jack finished bandaging the area, Hunter's eyes opened. All four focused on Jack with startling clarity. The creature slowly sat up, touching the back of its neck where the implant had been. Jack stepped back, giving Hunter space. "How do you feel?" Hunter stood and stretched its powerful limbs. It seemed to be testing its own body, flexing muscles and moving joints. Then it turned to Jack and did something completely unexpected. It bowed its head. Jack wasn't sure how to respond. He nodded back, a simple acknowledgement between two beings who were no longer enemies. Over the next day, Jack observed dramatic changes in Hunter's behavior. It moved differently with more purpose and awareness. It explored the station not as a hunting ground but with curiosity. Most surprisingly, it began attempting to communicate. Hunter found ways to express simple concepts, tapping objects it wanted Jack to explain, using different sounds to indicate yes or no, even attempting to draw shapes with its claws. Jack learned that Hunter could understand far more than he had thought possible. It wasn't just a biological weapon. It was intelligent, possibly even sentient. "Who made you?" Jack asked, showing Hunter images of different alien species on the computer screen. When he reached the Zeruleans, Hunter made an angry hissing sound and slashed at the image. "So it was them," Jack said. "They sent you to kill me. But why? What's so important about this moon?" Hunter couldn't answer these complex questions, but Jack was forming theories. The mineral samples he had found were extremely valuable. Perhaps the Zeruleans wanted to stop his report from reaching Earth. Jack checked the calendar. Rescue was still 7 days away. The station's systems were stable for now, but food supplies were running low. He would need to ration carefully. That night, as Jack was preparing for sleep, the station's alarm suddenly blared to life. Red warning lights flashed throughout the facility. "Central, what's happening?" Jack shouted over the noise. "Proximity alert. Vessel approaching." Not matching any Earth registry, Jack rushed to the communication center, Hunter close behind him. On the scanner, Jack could see a ship in orbit around the moon. It was Zerulean. "They're coming to check on their weapon," Jack realized. "They want to know if you killed me." Hunter made a low growling sound, its scales darkening to match its mood. Jack quickly assessed their situation. The Zeruleans would likely send a team to investigate when they received no response from Hunter. Standard procedure would be to dock with the station and enter through the main airlock. "We need a plan," Jack said, looking at Hunter. "If they find us both alive, they'll kill us and destroy the evidence." Hunter looked at the screen showing the approaching ship, then back at Jack. It made a series of rapid clicks and slashed the air with its claws. The message was clear: It was ready to fight. Jack nodded. Together, then. He began gathering weapons and supplies. The Ceruleans had sent Hunter to kill him, but instead, they had given Jack an ally. Now they would face both human and predator, united against them. As the Cerulean ship moved into docking position, Jack prepared his trap. For the first time since this ordeal began, he felt something close to hope. With Hunter by his side, he might just survive this after all. The real hunt was about to begin, but this time Jack wasn't the prey. The airlock hissed as it prepared to open. Jack crouched behind a storage container, his makeshift weapons laid out beside him. Hunter was hidden in the shadows of the ceiling. Its scales changed to match the dark metal of the station. "Remember the plan," Jack whispered. "Let them enter. Close the airlock behind them. Then we take them by surprise." Hunter made a soft clicking sound in response. Over the past day, they had prepared carefully. Jack had rigged traps throughout the entryway and gathered every possible weapon. He knew they were outnumbered, but they had the advantage of surprise. The inner airlock door slid open. 4 Ceruleans stepped into the station, their blue skin standing out against their black uniforms. Each carried a weapon that looked like a short rifle. Their large, dark eyes scanned the room methodically. "No signs of the asset or the human," one of them said in a harsh, clicking language. Jack couldn't understand the words, but his station's computer translated them on a small screen he held. "The asset should have reported by now," another replied. "Check for remains." Jack waited until all 4 had moved away from the airlock. Then he pressed a button on his remote control. The airlock door slammed shut behind them and warning lights began flashing. The startled Ceruleans spun around, raising their weapons. That was when Hunter dropped from the ceiling onto 2 of them. Its claws slashed with precision, disarming rather than killing. Jack emerged from his hiding place and triggered the first trap. A net made from storage cables dropped on the other 2 Ceruleans, tangling them temporarily. The battle was chaotic but brief. Hunter was incredibly fast, disarming the aliens before they could fire more than a few shots. Jack managed to stun one with his modified electrical tool. Within minutes, all 4 Ceruleans were subdued, their weapons collected in a pile away. From them, Jack approached the aliens cautiously. He had never seen Ceruleans up close before. Their skin was pale blue, their bodies thin but strong. Their eyes were large and completely black, adapted for the dim light of their home world. "Why did you send Hunter to kill me?" Jack asked, knowing they could understand him even if he couldn't understand their response without the translator. The lead Cerulean, who wore markings on its uniform indicating higher rank, stared at Jack with hatred. "The asset belongs to us. You have interfered with military property." Hunter made an angry sound and stepped toward the Cerulean, who shrank back in fear. "Hunter doesn't belong to anyone anymore," Jack said. "I removed your control implant." The Cerulean's eyes widened. "Impossible. The neural controller cannot be removed without killing the asset." "Well, I did it," Jack replied. "And now Hunter can think for itself, make its own choices." The Cerulean commander looked at Hunter with new eyes, not as a weapon, but as a potential threat. "You don't understand what you've done. The asset was created to hunt and kill. Without the controller, it will eventually revert to its base programming. It will kill you, human." Jack glanced at Hunter, who had been listening intently. "Is that true? Were you made only to kill?" Hunter looked at Jack, then at the Ceruleans. It made a series of complex clicks and gestures. The meaning was unclear, but the intensity was not. "I don't think Hunter agrees with your assessment," Jack said, to the Cerulean commander. "Now you're going to tell me why this moon was important enough to send an assassin." The commander remained silent, but one of the other Ceruleans spoke up. "The minerals, the rare earth elements in the northern quadrant. They're essential for our new warp drive technology." The commander hissed at the subordinate, who immediately fell silent. Jack nodded. His suspicions had been correct. The mineral samples he had collected were more valuable than he had realized. "Here's what's going to happen," Jack said. You're going to contact your ship and tell them everything is fine. Then you're going to return to your vessel and leave this moon. My rescue ship will arrive in 6 days, and I'll make sure Earth knows about your little bioweapon program." The commander laughed, a strange gurgling sound. "You think it's that simple? The ship above us has orders to destroy this station if we don't return with confirmation of your death." Jack hadn't expected this. He looked at Hunter, who seemed to be thinking. The creature walked to the computer and began pressing buttons with its claws. Images appeared on the screen, blueprints of the station, diagrams of systems. "What are you doing?" Jack asked. Hunter pointed to the communication system, then to the Zerulean ship in orbit. It made a series of gestures that Jack interpreted as a plan. "You want to send them a false message," Jack realized. "Make them think the mission was successful." Hunter nodded, its 4 eyes blinking in sequence. Jack quickly went to work on the communication system. With Hunter's help, they created a video showing what appeared to be Jack's body, and Hunter standing victorious over it. The image was grainy and dark, but it might be enough to fool the Zeruleans in orbit. The commander watched with narrowed eyes. They won't believe it. The asset was supposed to return with proof. "They'll have to come down to check then," Jack said, "and we'll be ready." But they didn't have to wait long to see if their plan worked. Shortly after sending the message, the station's sensors detected the Zerulean ship breaking orbit. "They're leaving," Jack said with surprise. The commander seemed equally shocked. "Impossible." Hunter made a satisfied clicking sound and pointed to the computer screen. It had added something to the message that Jack hadn't seen, a series of codes that apparently authorized the ship to return to Zerulean space. "You remembered their command codes," Jack said, impressed. Hunter's intelligence continued to surprise him. With the immediate threat gone, Jack turned his attention to the 4 Zerulean prisoners. He couldn't keep them for 6 days, but he also couldn't let them go. Hunter solved the problem. It led Jack to a small Zerulean shuttle attached to the far side of the station, the same craft that had delivered Hunter initially. The shuttle was large enough for the 4 Zeruleans, but had limited range. It could reach a nearby outpost, but not their homeworld. Jack locked the Zeruleans in the shuttle with enough supplies to last a week. Before launching them, he copied all the data from their computers, evidence of their bioweapon program and plans for the moon's minerals. As the shuttle departed, Jack felt a weight lift from his shoulders. They had survived. The remaining days passed quickly. Jack and Hunter continued to work on their communication, developing a simple language of gestures and sounds. Hunter helped repair the damage to the station, its strength and agility making short work of tasks that would have taken Jack days to complete alone. On the final day, as Earth's rescue ship approached, Jack faced a difficult decision. What would happen to Hunter when they returned to Earth? Would it be treated as a specimen to be studied, or worse, as a threat to be eliminated? He found Hunter in the observation room, looking out at the stars. Jack stood beside the creature that had been sent to kill him, but had instead become an ally. "They're coming for me," Jack said. "I don't know what will happen to you." Hunter turned to Jack and placed one clawed hand on its chest, then on Jack's chest. The meaning was clear. Together. Jack nodded. "I'll tell them you saved me. That you're not a weapon anymore, but a thinking being. It won't be easy, but we'll face it together." As the rescue ship docked with the station, Jack prepared to introduce the world to Hunter, not as a predator but as proof that even enemies could find common ground when freed from those who would control them. The human who had been trapped, with a predator sent to kill him, had not only survived, but had gained an ally unlike any other. And together, they would show both their species that understanding could triumph over fear.